Listen in now to what Union Home Minister Amit Shah had said on Article 370 abrogation that the government has been pushing as the big policy that could help bring peace to the Kashmir Valley. And here's what he had said.
मैं संकल्प प्रस्तुत करता हूं कि ये सदन अनुच्छेद 370(3) के अंतर्गत भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा जारी की जाने वाली निम्नलिखित अधिसूचनाओं की सिफारिश करता है। संविधान के अनुच्छेद 370(3) के अंतर्गत भारत के संविधान के अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 1 के साथ पठित अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 3 द्वारा प्रदत्त शक्तियों का प्रयोग करते हुए राष्ट्रपति संसद की सिफारिश पर यह घोषणा करते हैं कि यह दिनांक जिस दिन भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा इस घोषणा पर हस्ताक्षर किए जाएंगे और इसे सरकारी गैजेट में प्रकाशित किया जाएगा, उस दिन से अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे, सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा।
So remember, the politics part of it aside, it will be about the legal arguments and the legal perspective today in the Supreme Court. So on what basis will the Supreme Court decide and give a verdict on Article 370 abrogation? There are some pointers and questions. Let us go through that one by one on what are the legal arguments that the Supreme Court, the apex court of this country, will be looking at. Remember, on top, of course, will be, was centre's move to scrap Article 370 correct? Because the petitioners against it have opposed it, said it has not gone as per constitution, while the government has said all due process has been followed. But importantly, is abrogating the special status of Jammu and Kashmir constitutionally valid? This is something as per constitutional, as per legal measures that the Supreme Court will be deciding on. Let's take a look next. Validity of the law splitting Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories, which is Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and from statehood to a union territory. What is the validity of that as per legal measures? That is also that the Supreme Court will be looking at. This will be very crucial part of the Article 370 abrogation. But next, importantly, remember, these are going to be specific pointers that the top court will decide on. And of course, focus will be on the changes that have come forth on people and their rights that should not be taken away in any manner. Anisha Mathur joins me for a legal perspective. So does Kamaljeet Sandhu from Jammu and Ashraf Wani from the Kashmir Valley. First to you, Anisha, tell us about the legal perspective that we look at, because there is, of course, a lot of changes that I have seen in the Kashmir Valley specifically, but that's different from how the legal perspective will be looked at today in the top court. Go ahead, Anisha.
Well, Pooja, as you just said, the political and ground reality is a very different animal from the legal perspective. First of all, what the court has to look at is whether Article 370 was a temporary provision, whether it is a permanent, how was it considered a permanent provision, why it was considered so, and what more importantly is the procedure for abrogation of Article 370, which is given within Article 371. Now, in that comes the complication of who exactly can give assent for the abrogation. The petitioners, which includes the JNKPP, the Awami Conference, etc., even the CPIM and other part and National Conference, they have said that the people of Kashmir have to give consent, and because there was no elected assembly and there was no elected legislature of Kashmir at the time, which is what is the valid consenting authority for abrogation, this abrogation is invalid. On the other hand, the government has said that no, it is the Constituent Assembly of Kashmir which had created the J&K Constitution, which is now represented by the Parliament of India, which is the supreme authority that represents the will of the people of India, and that is why the Parliament, by passing a law, could have could have abrogated, and with the consent of the governor, this process could have been done. And the J&K Reorganization Act also, which had been passed, was within the power of the Parliament to pass. With that is also the question, the legal question of this legal status of a state within the Union of India. When Jammu and Kashmir was a state, how could its status have been changed to a union territory by a unilateral act of Parliament? That is also a question before the Supreme Supreme Court that has been asked. In fact, a question had been asked by the Supreme Court why elections have not been conducted. How long will the state be a union territory? What was the rationale behind the bifurcation of a state into 2 union territories? Those will also be questions that the court will have to look into. So it is the question of Article 370's validity. It is the question of whether the rights and aspirations of the people who are living in Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh were represented when this decision was taken. Who is the representative? What is the power of the governor? What is the power of the president to issue that proclamation abrogating Article 370? What were the legal background and history of Article 370? 10:30 a.m.
is when that big verdict is expected. Stay tuned to India Today, because we'll be tracking all the latest on that. We'll of course be going to the ground as well on what the mood is, the sentiment is in Jammu and in Kashmir.